I always wanted to be an actor. I can't remember a time when I wanted to be anything else. I remember when I was about 5, sitting in the bath pretending to be Donald Duck, because I'd been taken to see a lot of Walt Disney things, and I thought perhaps that's what I wanted to be, an animated cartoon. Luckily, I thought better of that.
It'll be a change to have a man about the house. My husband, may rest in peace, belonged only marginally to that category.
It was a lovely party, Liz. Most enjoyable.
Betty?
Oh, no. No, not enjoyable. Awful.
Oh, look! Jamie's feeding up old Brenda Cook.
Where?
I love a party.
We know.
Well, we met on the first day at the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School, and I was thrilled to find someone who was also a local girl. I mean, Steph was kind of like a sponge. She was there to learn. And I went to the drama school not even knowing who Stanislavski was. Steph certainly knew who Stanislavski was. Steph read all the time. Steph listened to Charles Trenet records, which I thought was frightfully smart. I mean, listening to French records.
When I went into rep, and I spent about 12 years going around the country, playing all sorts of parts, which was wonderful. Nobody can do that nowadays. But I played everything: pantomime, revue, restoration, Shakespeare, the lot, Agatha Christie, everything. And often I would play much older than myself, and quite often the Chars. Well, when I'd done about 12 years in rep, I looked around and all my peers were doing all sorts of exciting things, and I wasn't. And I'd been told, I remember, at the Vic School by a teacher called Daphne Hurd, who was terrific, "Steph, you'll never get anywhere till you're 50. Well, she was jolly nearly right. And I looked around and I started to get depressed. And I started to think that the only reason was because I couldn't do it. And I had a tremendous crisis of confidence. So I gave it up. Then this extraordinary coincidence happened. Sam Walters, who runs the Orange Tree in Richmond, had got a new play by David Cregan, and he was looking for someone to play the eponymous heroine and couldn't find the person. And someone said, well, what about Steph Nicole? And that was the start of what I consider to be my second career, because all of a sudden people discovered me. And I was sent up for a new series that was going to happen on television called Tenko. At one point, the director, Pennant Roberts, said to me, now, Steph, you're going to have to lose weight for the series. And I said, yes, I appreciate that. And he said, it shouldn't be any trouble for you. And I said, oh, no, I said, lying. And he said, I mean, what are you now, about 9 stone? Well, I hadn't been 9 stone since I was about 15, but I lied and said yes.
We all got on splendidly, actually. And we had quite a lot of scenes together, Steph and I, as the doctor, and I was, you know, the old lady of it, so to speak, and we became great friends.
What about you, Beatrice? What's your particular fancy, or daren't you divulge? It's a bust bodice.
Bust bodice?
And why not my arse?
Well, for one thing, you haven't got that much.
Quite enough for my purposes. Like to feel held in.
She's very strong as an actress, and as a person too. She's had a tough life and come through it, and she has a great sense of humour and a great giggler. I mean, you know, serious, we're both fairly sort of serious people, I suppose, in a way, but we both enjoy the same jokes, I must say. Have a lot of laughs together.
After the first series of Tenko, Ronnie Barker had seen that and decided that I would be right to play the Widow Featherstone in Open All Hours. So at one point in the morning I was rehearsing Open All Hours, and in the afternoon I was rehearsing Tenko, and they actually went out together.
Ow! I'm sorry, my head keeps hitting your umbrella.
Where are your trousers?
That's what I was trying to tell you.
Give away. What possible interest could there be for me in your trousers?
Well, no, please. Well, no, I can explain this.
I remember once being in my local supermarket, and I was aware that there was a lady following me around, and she'd obviously recognized me because this was happening more and more often. And she came up to me, and I live in an area of London which has a very large Jewish refugee population, and she said, excuse me, are you the lady from Tenko? So I said, yes, I am. And she said, oh, it's a beautiful series, it's so moving, it's lovely. And I said, well, thank you very much, you see. And then she said, and are you in that thing with Ronnie Barker? And I said, yes, I am. And she said, oh dear, do you need the money?
I never waste my money. We've got a lot in common. You're the only other one I know with a wonderful non-spending way about you.
Oh, yeah, just a mask.
Oh, you don't have to be modest. Not with me. Not with Delphine Featherstone, who's always admired every move you've never made.
Yes, well, Mrs. Featherstone.
Call me Delphine.
Delphine. We've got some tinned fruit, call that somewhere.
Then came a series called Bit of a Do, and I'd worked with the director before, and we amassed for the first read-through. And I could see David Reynolds eyeing me across the room, and I thought, I know what he's going to ask me. He's going to ask me if I mind going blonde. And about 5 minutes later, he came over and said, Steph, I've got a great favour to ask you. And I said, it's okay, I'll go blonde. I've always wanted to go blonde.
It's going to be lovely having you working for us, Ted. Lovely.
Oh, thanks.
No, I mean it. It is. It's going to be lovely.
Thanks.
I mean, all right. He said we'd be bankrupt by Christmas, but that's forgiven.
Thanks.
OK. He called us freaky, creaky, nut cutler folk, but that's forgotten because... And this is the point. It's going to be lovely having you working for us.
Thanks.
If you had a stubborn, opinionated sod.
Stephanie was playing the wife of Tim Wilton in this, where they took it in turns at various do's and functions. One would drink and the other one wouldn't.
Over 30 years together and we still love each other.
But the driving is important too. I mean, take today, I can't not get drunk because I'm not. But have a bit too much knowing you're driving.
I thought you were driving.
What?
Oh, dear. I think the system's broken down. Well, because I thought you were driving. I've had, well, not too much, but a bit too much. I mean, I wouldn't describe myself as drunk exactly, more...
Totally plastered.
Yes.
In one particular episode, she had to come along as a green pepper because it was a fancy dress do with her and Tim Wilton, both with this costume that was beautifully done by wardrobe, and the makeup, they had to have green makeup. But it was the only time I saw Stephanie get ratty because she was stuck there in this sort of hole with this green pepper, and she had to be fed with a straw with liquid, and she had to take the whole lot off to go to the loo, but she was there stuck all day, and we tried to send her up and joke her, but we realised that she didn't find it funny at all, and she was there saying, no, yes.
What are you, set of traffic lights? Peppers.
You are?
Red, green and yellow peppers.
Symbolise our vegetarian restaurant.
Oh, I see. You're advertising your business even at my farewell do, are you?
No room for shrinking violets in business, Ted.
Oh, Raffy, look. Liz and Rita are both come dressed as Queen Elizabeth.
Betty, dignity.
I'd worked many times for a wonderful producer called Innes Lloyd, now sadly dead. And he gave me sort of larger and larger parts over the years, and he would never go through my agent. And one day he rang me up and he said, Steph, I've got a play by Alan Bennett I'd like you to look at. And I'd done a couple of things by Alan. And I said, oh, lovely. He said, I'll send it over to you. So it was biked over, and I took the envelope. It's a rather slim envelope. I opened it, and all it said was, I hope you like it, love, Innes. And I opened the script, and it, Talking Heads by Alan Bennett, soldiering on. Muriel, and she started to talk, and I thought, oh, this is good stuff, you see. And I turned the page, and I thought, oh, she goes on a bit. I wonder where I come on. And I kept reading it, and I suddenly realised it was a monologue.
The church had been absolutely chocker. And I'd managed not to blub until right at the finish, when they struck up with I vow to thee my country. And then when we got back, because I'd got 101 things to do, I was perfectly all right. Until I saw awful Angela Gillespie had made the mistake of talking to boring old Frank from the firm. And I heard the dreaded words forklift trucks. And I thought how many times I'd had to shut Ralph up on similar occasions. The thought of shutting Ralph up at all set me off instantly. Had to nip into the pantry to staunch the flow. It was a gift. It was so beautifully written. I think it was the subtlest, actually, of the six, because there was so much that was unspoken. And it was the most wonderful opportunity. And it kind of shoved me several rungs up the ladder. My big passion now is the telly box. Never bothered with it before. Now, watch it all the time. And I'm not the discerning viewer, no fear. rubbish Australian series in the afternoons, everything. Glued to it all. Fan.
Many years ago I was out in Australia and they opened up a retirement village just over the hill from me called the Bayview Retirement Home. And I thought, what a wonderful location. I can put two old people on a veranda there and call it Talking Heads. Unfortunately, Alan Bennett beat me to it, so I called it Waiting for God.
That man is a well-known local fruitcake. He is not Sterling Moss, Alain Prost, or Nigel Mansell.
So you say this gentleman's given us a false name?
Yes. He is really Nicky Lauder.
Who is he?
Lauder.
Who is he?
I actually thought that it would not capture the public's imagination because anything about the elderly had actually not really been done before.
I loved Waiting for God, and I saw it at home because it's one of my parents' favourite programmes. It's one of the very few things that's allowed to be watched at the dining room table. Normally supper has to be cleared away and then the telly goes on, but no, that's allowed, which is praise indeed.
All men are swine!
Okay.
You too.
You can tell from the first episode that Stephanie was right on top of the part because really the character didn't change from episode 1 to episode 47, as you don't at that time of life. She wasn't slowly growing into the role. She came to it and she had it there in that first episode, and you could show that first episode anywhere in the series, and apart from the wig. He's a rant against the awfulness of growing old in this society where you really are just shunted aside and told to sort of fend for yourself and get on with it.
He said they'd have to cut him off.
What?
The twin sources of the tribe of Ballard.
Oh, bollocks.
Precisely.
No, I meant rubbish. Look, I have been to the library. If, and I do mean if, you have cancer of the prostate, it can be spread by hormone activity. So old-fashioned thinking was chop out anything to do with hormones, i.e. your nuts. Since proved a load of cobblers.
Really?
Yes. So your family jewels are safe.
I think that we often forget that the best of comedy is on the edge of tragedy. If you think of what the comic and tragic masks are, you know, they're identical masks, but all the difference is that one is and the other is. And what Steph does is she molds those two together. So the tragedy follows through into the comedy.
What a marvellous breeding specimen. Two genetically perfect people who can create a master race.
Run him down. Come on, let's try something. Drat, missed.
I've seen her take vast tracts of script and dialogue, which you would say there's no way you could do that on a Sunday evening. Not after, 4 mornings rehearsal. That's all it is. 4 mornings rehearsal, get into studio and whack it out.